Is anybody with me who is sick and tired of winter and cold weather and snow? I want to know who in here wanted it to snow. It's your fault, okay? Dang. I wasn't able to be with you last Thursday, and I watched online, and I know it was an incredible Thursday night service from what I experienced online, but then we weren't able to have church on Sunday because of the snow, and I just think I moved to the Conway Myrtle Beach area to get away from that crap, all right? And tonight it's 30 degrees out there. It's stupid. So I don't understand groundhog and all that, but all I know is, Lord, I want it to be warm. I like warm weather. But anyway, so if you're new with us, man, thank you for coming. And I hope you do have a great night tonight. And I hope that as you came in, that you were well received. But even more than that, what I hope is that you'll connect with Jesus tonight. That God will do some work in your life. And if you are new with us, I do encourage you, stop by our Connect area on your way out, big orange wall. We would love to connect with you. And the reason we want to connect with you is because we really believe that matters. But our whole goal of connecting with you is also to help you connect with Jesus. So we want you to be able to do that. All right. Now, let me ask you this. I'm just curious, did anybody this week happen to see the speech that Jelly Roll gave some of you saw that. If you didn't, I just want to play it for just a second. I'm not a guy who watches the Grammys, but I happened to see this and I was just like, wow. So just do me a favor, just check this out for just a second, all right? It's 43 seconds.
There was a time in my life, y'all, that I was broken. That's why I wrote this album. I didn't think I had a chance, y'all. There was days that I thought the darkest things. I was a horrible human. There was a moment in my life that all I had was a Bible this big and a radio the same size and a 6x8 foot cell. And I believed that those two things could change my life. I believed that music had the power to change my life and God had the power to change my life. And I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. I love you, Lord.
Yeah. I saw that and I was just like, well, holy cow, right? And I don't know if people appreciated it. Obviously, Reba McEntire did, and you would expect Reba to like it, right? You know what I'm saying, JP? Right? But here's the question. Was it real? Right? Because you know him personally? You see what I'm getting at? Do I believe it was real? I have no reason not to believe it was real, right? I've a couple of his songs, Heartbreak Hallelujah, or however that song goes. I really like that song. Is that what it's called? What? That's what I said. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not good with songs. Anyway, but I could question, is it real? Because how many times have you heard somebody stand with a microphone at the Grammys or the Oscars or after a victory on a field and they go, hey, first thing I want to do is I just want to thank God. But then maybe nothing else follows after that is of God, right? We live in times where it's easy to question, is this real or is this fake? Because a lot of things seem kind of fake. Like the news right now. Can I go there for just a second? When you watch the news, is it real or is it fake? I don't know. Right? I don't watch a whole lot of it because I just don't know. People ask me all the time, well, Josh, what do you think about this? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Don't you watch the news? Nope. And that's just me. If that's you, if you like to watch the news, that's fine. But I know there's times I read, I'm like, is this real or fake? Even on my Twitter feed and I'm following sports, I'm like, this guy is now the coach of this. I'm like, is that real or is that fake? And I have a hard time deciphering, right? And with AI now, like you just don't know. Like there's an article that came out about some musician that made millions of dollars using all AI. And now he's going to jail because of it. Because what he did was fake. But I don't even know if the article is real. You see what I'm getting at? Like, you know what I mean? It's like real or fake. And which leads me back to Jelly Roll, that I have no reason not to believe that it's real. Okay, I have no reason not to. And from the little bit that I've followed the recent months and from the music side, I was like, sure, I believe it's real. But because I don't know him, the message isn't about him. The message is about you. The message is about me. Because I can't speak for him. But I can speak for me. You can speak for you. Is your faith real or fake? Does the faith that you portray to the world in which you live, that world might be the campus at Coastal, that world might be the job front, that world might be at your house, that world might be in the public eye, is your faith real or is it fake? See, unfortunately, too many times we claim to have a real relationship with Jesus, but everything in our life looks fake. And here's the reality. We don't make the world better and brighter when we have a fake faith. The only way to make the world better and brighter is if our faith is truly authentic. If our faith is real. Because with a real faith, we're able to make a real difference. And again, from what I know about Jelly Roll, real faith, real difference. What about you? What about me? Am I going to make a real difference by making the world better and brighter because I have an authentic faith? Or am I just an actor? Am I just getting up on stage and talking into a microphone as an actor, or is it real? Well, I can tell you what I believe about me. And I'm praying tonight that everybody listening here, everybody watching online, everybody at J. Rubin, that we will make a decision today to say, I will not be an actor when it comes to faith. I will be authentic. That I'm going to be better and brighter. I'm going to make the world better and brighter because I am going to have an authentic faith, not a faith that is just acting, which is what we see when we look at Matthew chapter 6. So if you have a Bible, go ahead and go there. Matthew chapter 6. We've been in Matthew chapter 5 since the very first week of January. We're now into February, second week of February. We're finally moving on to a new chapter, Matthew chapter 6. We're going to deal with verse 1 through 4 is what we're going to hit today. So again, always encourage you to do this. You got a paper Bible, grab that. If you got it, your phone, do it digitally. Open up Matthew chapter 6. And tonight, we're only going to hit 4 verses. I'm going to read them. We're going to walk through them a little bit. And what we're going to see in these verses is this idea, am I going to be authentic or am I going to be an actor? This is what it says in verse 1. Watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven. This is verse 2, when you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogue and in the streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. So it's an interesting segment of Scripture that really tees up the next 3 weeks that we'll talk about. All right? But we're going to just take it on its own and really hit it from this idea of, are you an actor or are you authentic? See, it starts by saying, watch out. Like Jesus has given us stern warning here that he's saying, listen, I want to remind you, just remember, he just got done saying, turn the other cheek, saying, go the extra mile, saying, give to somebody a coat. Now listen, if you weren't here last Thursday night or if you weren't here Sunday morning, which nobody was here Sunday morning, go watch that message. Go watch it. If you did not tune in, go back and watch it. That because Jesus is saying, man, this is how we live out our faith. But then he adds to it. He says, but make sure when you're doing things like that you're not doing it for the applause of man. Don't turn the other cheek just to get the applause of man. Don't give somebody extra just for the applause of man. Don't go the extra mile just so people look at you and go, look at that dude, man. He didn't just serve 1 mile, he served 2. Jesus says, when you do your good deeds, those are good deeds. There are other good deeds. We all should be doing good deeds. Jesus told us to do good deeds. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, where you go all the way back to week 1 of the series, he said, I want you to do good deeds. In Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, it says we have good deeds that we will do that he planned long ago. There are good things that we're supposed to do. Giving. It's a good thing we're supposed to do. In the text right there, it talks about it. It said this in verse 2, when you give to someone in need. That's a good thing. That is something that we're supposed to do. And what's that look like in your context? I don't know, right? Everybody's context is a little different. Might be helping somebody get a ride to church or a ride to work. It might be buying some groceries for somebody. It might be serving them in some other way. There's tons of different ways we do this. The question is when you do it, why do you do it? Do we serve others? Do we give to others? Do we help others because we're actually looking for applause? Like are we saying, God, I want to serve this person, and I really hope somebody notices? I mean, listen, we all like encouragement, right? Am I right? Like most of us like to be encouraged. Most of us like to be recognized. But if we're serving others so that we get recognition from people, well, all we're doing is being an actor. Because then we're not doing it for the right reasons. We're putting on an act. And I think that's what Jesus is getting at when he says it this way. He says, don't do it like the hypocrites. The word hypocrite, we hear it all the time in our context, and we think it's somebody who says one thing and does the other, which that's what it means, okay, in our context. But if you actually go all the way back to the origin of the word, it's one of those Greek words that we kind of translate across. Right? Like some Greek words sound like one thing and then the translation is something totally different. Hypocrite comes straight from the Greek word. I don't speak Greek, but you would pronounce it something like Hippocrates. Okay? The Greek word and the English word is the same word. Okay? We translate it the same thing. Here's the difference. In the Greek, when it was written, it was used of an actor. It was used of someone who stood on a stage and pretended to be somebody they were not, that they carried out a role. So what Jesus is actually saying here is, don't be like an actor. Don't be somebody who is acting like it matters. Don't be like somebody who is acting their faith in a way that is not authentic. And you might go, okay, Josh, but what's that mean for me today? See, I think there's some of us, I think all of us, myself as well, at times, we put on an act. we're just like a hypocrite. And what we end up doing is we do our acts, our good deeds, we live our life, we live out our faith, portraying someone else. Let me try to explain it. I think some of us are auditioning for the role of, well, if I could say it this way, for the role of Samson. I think some of us are acting and we're auditioning for the role of Samson. Samson, if you know anything about the Old Testament, if you maybe heard of Samson, he was like the strongest guy who ever lived. Okay? He was one of the judges back in the book of Judges from the Bible. Like incredible dude, gifted from God, incredible strength. Like he's a guy that like you'd look at him and you're like, that's the man. And I think some of us are trying to play his part. Here's what I mean by that. That you're gifted by God. Like you're like, yes, I want to be the man. Yet Samson was so undisciplined in his life that he was always at war. And I think for some of us, man, we're acting the part of Samson in our life. We're just putting on an act and we look tough and we look strong and we think we got it all together, but there is a war going on in you and around you because you're so undisciplined. Stop trying to play the role of Samson. Or for some of us, I think we're maybe acting like Martha. We're auditioning for the role of Martha. Martha is a great woman of the Bible, all right? Martha, her brother was Lazarus, and he was raised from the dead, and she has a great testimony. But there was also this portion of her life where it was all about just serving. She just wanted to serve Jesus, which sounds great, right? That is a good work that we're supposed to do. And so she served Jesus. But as she was serving Jesus, her sister Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus. And eventually Martha got upset and went to Jesus and said, Jesus, don't you care that Mary has left me to do all the work? Tell her to get up and to help me in the kitchen. Tell her to get up and to help me serve. And Jesus looked at Martha and said, Martha, Martha, you are busy and upset about so many things, but only one thing matters. Mary has chosen what is best and it won't be taken away from her. I want you to see what it is there, that Martha, she was doing a good deed of serving Jesus, but she never sat and worshiped Jesus. And I think maybe there's times that maybe some of us are auditioning for the role of Martha. We're trying to act it out. Here's what I mean by that. Oh, I'm all about serving. I just want to serve God. I just want to serve God. You're maybe at every service we do at the Rock, that maybe you're serving in the community. You're all about serving. But are you actually ever sitting at the feet of Jesus? Why? Why don't we go and sit at the feet of Jesus? Why do Marthas not sit at the feet of Jesus? I think it's not just because they're serving, but because they're afraid of what might happen when they have to have a personal moment with God. And I know right now you're sitting in worship, you're like, well, then that's not me. But it's easy just to come in worship and appear and not to actually get intimate or personal with God. You see what I'm getting at here? Like you're auditioning for the role of Martha. Or maybe I could say it this way, you're auditioning for the role of Judas. Anybody want to be Judas in the room? Some of you are like, I don't know, who is he? Others of you are like, no, not me. But I want you to, like, can we just be honest, right? And I've done this as well. So I'm not just throwing stones. I have been guilty of this as well in my faith at different times of acting like Judas. Here's what I mean by Judas. Judas was with Jesus. For 3.5 years, Judas walked with Jesus. For 3.5 years, Judas heard all the teachings of Jesus, listened to Jesus, went and did ministry on behalf of Jesus. Yet the entire time he had his own agenda. And I think there are times that we say, oh yeah, I've got faith. Oh yeah, I want to serve God. Oh yeah, I want to help others. But the entire time we're serving others, helping others, serving God, we do it with our own agenda. Rather than surrendering to the agenda of Jesus, we go, well, this is my agenda and this is what I hope to get out of it. And that was Judas. Because Judas was right there with Jesus. Imagine it. He was right there with Jesus, yet he never surrendered. And then when Jesus didn't fulfill his agenda, he traded him in. He went to the leaders and said, I'll give you Jesus. He was a hypocrite because he was acting like Jesus mattered, but was living for his own agenda. Oh, I could keep going. How about Ananias and Sapphira? Maybe we're auditioning for that role. We act like Ananias and Sapphira. Who are they? Well, there are a couple people that said that I want to worship God and I'm going to give to God, but I'm going to lie about what I'm actually giving. See, there was a guy named Barnabas who went and sold a piece of land, and when he sold a piece of land, he went to the church and he gave the church the entire profit. Gave it all to the elders, to the apostles at the church. Well, Ananias and Sapphira heard about this. They're like, well, I want to go do the same thing. So they went and sold a piece of land. But when they came to the church, they gave a portion of the profit and kept the rest of the profit for themselves, which is fine. It would have been okay if that's what they did. But when they gave a portion of the profit, they told the apostles, here's everything. This is all of it. We want to give 100% to the Lord, yet they were keeping a percentage for themselves. And how many times do we, in the same way, we go, oh yeah, I give to God. Oh yeah, I tithe. Oh yeah, I honor the Lord. But in reality, all we're doing is giving him some pennies from our pocket rather than truly honoring him. See what I'm getting at? I think there's times that we're just acting, that we're not fully bought into the gospel, that we're not fully bought into our faith, that we act in a way that we become an actor. We're like Samson, we're like Martha, we're like Judas, we're like Ananias and Sapphira. That we're like, can I say this one? Just a fun story of the Bible. We're like the 7 sons of Sceva. You maybe have never heard of them. They're just a little story in the book of Acts. It says that these 7 dudes one day saw a demon-possessed man, and when they saw the demon-possessed man, they said, in the name of Jesus, who Paul preaches, get out of him. And the demon actually talked back and said, Jesus, I know. Paul, I've heard of him. But who the heck are you? And then it says the man who was demon-possessed whooped these 7 dudes. One dude took out 7 where they ran away naked and bleeding. And you might go, Josh, how do I have anything to do with them? I'm not acting like them. They were pretending to be spiritual and ignored the spiritual war they were actually in. And I wonder if there's times we come into church and we pretend to be spiritual and totally miss the spiritual war that is actually going on and miss the Spirit of God who's trying to convict our hearts. Here's all I'm trying to say with this point. It's time for us to stop acting. I've brought up 5. I could go on and on and on. It's time for us to stop acting, and it's time for us to be authentic. Can I go back to the text? It says this, verse 3. But when you give to someone in need, remember, giving is something we should do. It says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Now, if we understand this, that's impossible. That is literally impossible to do. You can't not let your hands know what the other one is doing. So we're at this point, we understand Jesus is talking figurative, but I think what he's trying to get at here is when it comes to living out your faith, when it comes to the good works that we do, it's not as much about secrecy as it is about sincerity. That we should give in such a way that we don't even realize we're doing it. It's just a natural outflow, overflow of our heart that we say, I just want to give, I want to help, I want to serve. Rather than, hey, look at me and look what I'm doing. That it should just be so natural that we give, that we serve, that we live out our Christian faith, not hey, look at me and look what I've done. That it doesn't mean you have to be secret. Again, we can just talk about giving for a second financially. Think about the widow with 2 mites. It wasn't a secret that she gave. Jesus was actually watching her. Jesus talked about it. I already talked about Barnabas. Barnabas gave. It wasn't a secret. It's not about secrecy as much as it's about sincerity. That the sincere part of my heart just simply says, man, I just want to serve God. I just want to help others. I want to live out my faith and make things better and brighter, which means I'm not going, ooh, look what I did. I'm just going, I'm just here to serve, because it's coming out of a place of authenticity. Am I going to be real? And my faith is going to display itself in an authentic way? Or am I going to be an actor? Am I going to be a hypocrite? How do I do this? How do I look for the applause of man? Verse 4 says it this way: give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. That when I think about that, I think about it from this angle of, am I getting the applause of man, or am I getting the applause of God? And the applause of man is nice in a moment, but in the end, how much will it matter? Have you thought about that? When I come to the end of my life, I don't want the applause of man. I want the applause of God. I want all of heaven saying, man, there's a man who was real. There's a man who was authentic. There's a man who lived out his faith. I want it to be like that moment. You ever watched a baseball game? I'm going to talk to everybody for a second, but I'm going to talk to this section for a minute because I know I got a bunch of baseball players over here. The walk-off home run. I know I'm looking at a bunch of pitchers right now. They're like, shut up, Finkley. I don't want to talk about walk-off home runs. But for those of you who are fielders, the walk-off home run is a big deal. And if you think about any walk-off home run, the home run goes, the crowd goes wild. And as cool as it is for the crowd, the most exciting part is what happens at home plate. Because everybody's out there. Everybody's out there clapping, celebrating, watching you round third, coming towards home. And when you step on home, it's a party. And that's a picture of heaven to me. Crossing home plate in heaven. It's not the applause of man, it's the applause of God saying, well done, faithful servant. You've lived out your faith in a real way. And there are people in heaven who are here because of the good things you did. See, I want to remind you back to Matthew 5:16. Let your good deeds shine so that all may see, so that they may praise and glorify your Father in heaven. We don't do things in our faith on earth. We don't live out our faith on earth so that we get applause. We do it so that others will applaud God. Yet when we live that way, when we cross that plate in heaven, we get the applause of the Father. And that's the reward. Remember the last line here. Your Father who sees everything will reward you. And that's the reward I'm looking for. Which means I can't be an actor. I got to be authentic. It means I can't just live my life as a fake. I can't walk around and go, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, but then I live like Samson. Oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, but then I live like Ananias and Sapphira. Oh sure, I love Jesus, but then I live like Martha and never sit at his feet. No, I gotta be authentic and long to connect with Jesus and then to serve him by serving others and do it in a way that I don't even think about it because it just so naturally comes out of my life. How do we do that? Well, the way we do it is actually seen in Luke 18. Luke 18 reads like this. They might throw it up on the screen for you. It says this. Then Jesus told them this story to some who had great confidence in their own righteousness and was scorned by everyone else. Two men went to a temple to pray. One was a Pharisee. The other was a despised tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed this prayer. I thank you, God, that I am not like the other people, cheaters, sinners, adulterers. I'm certainly not like the tax collector. I fast twice a week and I give 1/10 of my income. That this religious person was a fake. And he's saying to the world, man, I'm glad I'm not like those sinners over there. But then notice the next part of the story. But the tax collector stood at a distance and dared not even lift his eyes to heaven as he prayed. Instead, he beat his chest in sorrow, saying, "Oh God, be merciful to me, for I am a sinner." What we see in this tax collector is an authentic faith that is displayed through humility and honesty. He humbled himself, meaning he wouldn't even go to the center of the temple. He wouldn't even go to where everybody was watching. He stayed at a distance. He humbled himself before God. And then he was honest with God and said, I am a sinner. You want to start having an authentic faith? Here's how it starts. Be honest. Be humble. Humble yourself before God and be honest with God about the sin in your life. So that's what we're going to do. Because I want us to have a time of authenticity. If I can be honest with you as a pastor for a second, we could fabricate this moment right now. Have the band play the right song. Do everything just right. Me say the right words. And try to get a bunch of people to raise their hands or a bunch of people to come up front and to get down on their knees. And we're not going to fabricate the moment. But I am going to give you a moment. And yes, we will sing, not as fabrication, but as real, humble, honest song to God. That's why I love our team that leads worship. Because before they ever lead worship for us, they lead worship by themselves to the Lord. And when they practice before this service, it's a worship service for those who are on stage. because they're not trying to fabricate anything. I could go through the people who I know will be up here, and it's real. So I want us to have a real moment with God. A real moment where we say, God, I'm going to humble myself before you. And a real moment where we're honest with God. Because if you're acting, now's the time to quit auditioning. And it's time to simply be authentic. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to stand up. And I'm going to have to do something different while I ask you to stand up. Will, if you're back there, Clay, I just want everybody to hang back for a while. Casey, y'all just stay back for a couple minutes. Thank you. Because they know when I say to stand up, they can come on out. But we're just going to let this track play for a while, which means we're going to go a couple minutes over on our service, and I'm okay with that. Because what I want us to do is I just want us to have a moment to be authentic and to quit acting. And if you want to pray with people around you, you can. If you want to come up front and grab some communion and get down on your knees, it's real simple. What do I do if I do that? Humble myself. That's why we get on our knees. And then be honest with God. Where are you playing church? Where are you playing faith? Where are you playing and trying to get the applause of man rather than the applause of God? Let's spend some time with him right now. Let's get real. Because as Jelly Roll said at the beginning, Jesus is for you. And he wants to meet with you. Jesus, we come before you.